what's up? Thanks for joining me again. Welcome back to the channel. So today we have had like a cold front move in, so it's like freezing cold outside. So this is actually perfect because today I was gonna make a like an old-fashioned beef stew. I never ever make stew. I don't know, I just thought today, like I saw the stew meat in the grocery store and I was like, you know what, let me get this meat, let me see what we can do with this thing. Let's make some beef stew, some old-fashioned beef stew. So that's what I'm gonna be doing today. If you guys like the videos, you like the channel, please subscribe, please give me some likes, send me some feedback. If there's any, things that you guys would like to see me make, just let me know and I can go ahead and add that into my plan. I'm having a really bad hair day today, but that's okay. I don't even care. I'm not here to be looking pretty. I'm here to be making some bomb ass food, and that is what I'm gonna do today. So this stew, it's gonna be slow cooked. It's gonna be something that is really, really delicious, really hearty, nice and warm. It's very comforting. It's like a comfort food, like a food that you would have when you were like younger. So that's kind of what I'm expecting, is for it to just kind of like take me back. If you guys want to learn how to make this recipe, keep watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to give me some likes and give me some comments. You guys can find me on Facebook as well as Instagram at Miss A's Place. Miss A's Place is my kitchen, in case you're wondering. Let's go ahead and get started making some delicious, wonderful, amazing, yumminess beef stew. So let's get going.
Alrighty guys, so for this recipe I'm going to be using 2 pounds of stew meat, 1/2 pound of beef soup bones. I'm going to tell you about these in just a sec. 6 carrots, 6 stalks of celery, 1 medium-sized yellow onion, 8 red skin potatoes, 6 cloves of garlic, 1 teaspoon of rosemary, 3 tablespoons of beef bouillon, 3 tablespoons of tomato paste, 1/4 cup of cornstarch, and 1 can of sweet peas. And you guys could also use frozen peas if you had those on hand. That would work out probably better actually. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up my Ziploc bag, and I'm going to add all the spices, which is 1 teaspoon each: garlic pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder, and salt, as well as 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, and then 3 tablespoons of flour. And we're just going to add all of the beef into this seasoning, and this is going to create a nice dry coating for the outside of the beef so that when we sear it, it sears in that flavor as well as gives it a little bit of a crust on the outside. So you just want to get all of the meat into the bag. Zip it up, and then you want to just shake it around until all of the pieces are evenly coated. And you're just going to toss it around, throw it up and down, grab a colander and shake off the excess flour in the bag. I just did this over my trash can. And then you can see the meat is nice and dry, and the coating has completely covered all sides of the meat. So I'm just using bacon grease today because that's just what I have available. But you guys, if you have olive oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, whatever, just add a little bit of oil to your pan, and we're just going to sear off the meat. So anytime you're searing meat, you want to make sure your pan is very hot. You can see it's kind of smoking. You want the meat to be dry. If there's moisture on the meat, it's not going to sear correctly. And you also want the meat to be at a room temperature, and this is just going to give you the best results possible. We're going to go ahead and peel up these carrots. These carrots are super thin, and so if they were a little bit bigger, I would probably just use 4 carrots rather than 6. But because these are so thin, I am going to go ahead and use all 6 of these. And anytime you guys have any type of vegetable trimmings from carrots or celery or onions or any leftover pieces of garlic, you could throw them all in a bag and just kind of hold on to them until you have enough to make a beef stock or a chicken stock or even a vegetable stock. And you can just throw that in a big pot with some water and a bay leaf and maybe some peppercorns. Use beef bones or chicken bones if you're doing a chicken or beef stock. And then let it boil for about 5 minutes. Turn it down to a medium and let it go for a good hour. And then you should have a really nice rich stock. And you can use that for anything really. You could use it to make things like this. You could use it to make soups. You could put it in your rice instead of just water to just give your rice a little bit more flavor. And so it's nice to have stock on hand. I always have bouillon on hand. I used to buy the stock in the boxes, but it's just a lot of waste. And so I prefer to just buy the bouillon now. And then I just make my own stock with bouillon and water. So just works a little bit better for me. Same thing with the celery. If you want to just throw all that stuff in a bag, just kind of save it up. And, if not, don't. That's all good too. And I'm just going to cut all of the pieces of the vegetables. I'm just going to cut them all into big pieces. This is going to have to cook for quite a while, so I want to make sure that the vegetables don't fall apart or get mushy or anything like that. So I'm just keeping them in big pieces. And like I said, I haven't really ever made stew before. I cook a lot of things. I cook all the time, every day almost. But I don't know, for some reason, this is just not something that I've made. So I'm excited to see how it turns out. Maybe it'll be a new favorite of mine. I don't know. So I just like to take off the outer layer of the onion whenever I'm cooking onions, because it can kind of feel, even though it's not the papery part, when it cooks down, it can also get that sort of papery texture to it, and I just don't like that very much, and so I just take that piece off. But again, you could throw that into your stock bag and save that for a future use, so you're not wasting it. And then you're just going to smash all of your garlics. This is the best way, if you guys have never worked with fresh garlic, to remove the peel, because it's super sticky. And so it's going to start to stick to your hands and it also sticks to the garlic itself. And so if you just give it a good whack, it just basically falls right off after that. And most of the time you're going to cut your garlic up anyway, or, kind of open that flavor up. So whacking it is going to be good either way. So I'm just going to chop this up. If you guys aren't comfortable with fresh garlic, you can buy garlic paste that comes in a tube. It's usually by the Fresh Herbs. Or you could also buy like a pre-minced garlic. And I'm actually not sure where that is in the grocery store. It might be up in the front with all the produce as well, but it could also be with the spices and stuff. I can't remember. I always just keep fresh garlic on hand because it's just something I work with all the time. So I was just crushing up the rosemary there. Whenever you work with dried spices, you can crush them up, and that will help to release the flavors a little bit since they are dried. And then I'm just adding 3 tablespoons of beef base. So beef base or beef bouillon would work perfect here. Just a bit of cracked black pepper. And then I'm going to cut up my potatoes. I'm just going to cut these really big. I don't know, I feel like I remember when I had this as a kid, like I remember it being this way, that the vegetables were big and you just kind of like, cut them with your spoon or whatever. But again, because of the long cooking process, I want to make sure that these hold up really well. So red potatoes are softer than russet potatoes, so they just have a different texture when they're cooked. And same thing with like small golden yellow potatoes or whatever they're called. Any potatoes would probably work just fine in this situation. I'm just adding 6 cups of water, and I'm just going to give it a little stir there. Stir it up. And we're going to put our first round of meat. So as you can see, it's seared up really nicely. There's some really good crust and color on the outside of that meat. So what that's going to do is it's going to help protect the juiciness of the inside of the meat, because whenever you're cooking something in water, I've noticed that if you don't sear it, it dries the meat out a lot. And so I just really like to do this step. You don't have to do it. I don't know how it would turn out if you didn't, because this is how I did it. But because it cooks so long, I don't know, it'd probably be all right. And then I'm just going to get all of the meat into the crock pot. You just want to have enough liquid that it covers all of the ingredients. And I'm searing the beef bone off as well. And I'm going to add some water to the pan. Here it is. And I'm going to deglaze it. So all of that, you can see how dark that liquid was. That's all good flavor that you want to get in there. And then I'm going to put the bone in. And you just want to have enough water so that everything is submerged. If things are sticking out, those parts are going to get kind of hard and dried out, so you want everything to be nice and submerged. So if you have to add more water, go ahead and do that. So this has been going for about 7 hours, and I'm going to go ahead and just add the slurry, which is just 1/4 cup of cornstarch and 1/4 cup of water. This is a thickening agent, and so it's going to help thicken up this stew. And it's going to actually make the liquid turn into more of like a gravy type of a texture. So another trick I like to use sometimes if I'm, I don't know, in the mood for it, you guys could throw in an actual gravy seasoning packet into this at this point. I'd actually probably do 2, and it's going to do the same thing for you. It's going to thicken it up. So just adding in my peas. If you guys use frozen peas, you still want to put these in at the very end because they will get mushy. They will cook too much, and they'll be just fine even if they're frozen. This is so hot at this point that it's going to just thaw those out pretty instantly for you. So you can see it's nice and thick now. It's not watery like it was a while ago. This is cooked for about another 1.5 hours. And so this was a total of about, I would say, a 9 to 10 hour cooking process. It took a long time. It took a lot longer than I was expecting, but hey, it looks perfect. It looks exactly the way I remember it.
All right, you guys, so that was quite the ordeal. That took forever to cook. I honestly thought it would take like 6 hours, but it took more like, I don't know, 8 or 9 hours. So not that that's a bad thing. I just didn't know that. I just didn't know that the meat, I checked it at about 6 hours and the meat was like tough still. And I was like, oh no, it's not going to work out. But then I just let it keep going and it worked out fine. It worked out actually really, really well. So here's the finished product. I mean, it's beef stew. It is what it is. It's chunky. It's got a lot of vegetables in it. It's got nice big chunks of meat in it. It tastes fine. It tastes great. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's beef stew. Anytime I would eat this, it would always get served with like white bread with butter. So I feel like this is the key. This is the ticket. This is what is really going to make it like taste really, really good. So I'm going to taste a carrot first. I mean, it tastes perfect. It tastes exactly how it's supposed to taste. It tastes the way that I remember it. It's definitely kind of making me feel like, I'm 7 years old again. Let's taste this meat because this is the thing that I was a little bit worried about, that it wasn't going to get tender enough. Let's see how it tastes. Wow. I'm really surprised because it's really tender. It's like perfect. It tastes really good. It's not chewy at all. It's just very soft and very flavorful. This is a great thing to make like in the morning. You guys have a little bit of extra time in the morning, get it going in your crock pot and just let that sucker go all day. And by the time you get home, you're gonna have something to eat. Just make sure that it does have adequate time to cook because it definitely needs that extra time. I'm gonna give it a shot with some of this bread because honestly, this is the way that I remember eating it, is with white bread with butter on it. So I'm just gonna give it a little dip. There it is. There is that nostalgic taste I was looking for. So this is absolutely important to eat this with white bread, and the butter from the bread, it really just gives it like a little bit of extra, I don't know, that creaminess, that saltiness, that butter flavor in there. It's awesome. So comforting. It's just so comforting. The meat is super tender and super delicious, and this bread is just, you gotta have it with the bread. That's it. That makes it so perfect. Makes it so much better. It's so good. And this meat, I'm obsessed. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get a piece of this meat. I'll plop it into the bread. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that bite. Going down the hatch. Mmm. Mmm. So good. So good. You guys, that bread and butter, I don't know why, but that literally just makes it like so much better. I mean, when I taste this too, I'm like, yeah, you know, it's gonna stale. One thing I probably would do is I'll probably add maybe like, I don't know, 1 or 2 less potatoes. And then I also cut them very big, which is fine because they're soft enough that I can just kind of like cut them in half with my spoon. But you definitely don't, I mean, you could, I don't know, shove a big old potato in your mouth, but I just don't like to do that. So I cut this little guy up into a little bit. Let's see. They're super good. The whole thing is really good. I'm gonna give this a 10 as far as beef stews go. It's like awesome. It's really good. It's really flavorful and tender and soft, and it's delicious. The meat's the best part. The meat is the best part. That was the only part that I was worried about. I knew the flavor would be there for everything else. I knew everything would get nice and tender. So you guys try this recipe. Let me know what you think about it. If you like it, give me some thumbs up. Share the recipe with other people. This is a perfect thing to make during the winter months if you're in a state that actually experiences cold weather like we are. Oh, that was a big piece. It's great. And with the bread and butter, you gotta have the bread and butter. You just have to. So good. It's so good. It's so good. Guys, give this stew a shot. It's good. It's really good. I like it. And subscribe to my channel. Give me lots of thumbs up. Thanks you guys so much for watching. Bye guys. Have a great night.